To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave para peeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Reverend Sean Whittington's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Reverend Sean the Rev. Welcome to my haunted house, my very haunted house. And I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. Been a little active today. And everybody that knows me and loves me knows that I'm a big believer in the elementals. So you're going to love my guest today. And I believe that I have a fair amount of them living here on my property. So I believe that's the activity. They're excited, as all of you are, for my guest today, and I will bring her on here in a moment. But first, let me start with I just want to say this comes from me. This isn't for anybody else. This is from me, and it's from the heart. And I just want to say this to all of you that being the son of a 25-year retired Master Chief Radioman from the Navy, a man that served in World War II, Korea, Purple Heart recipient, finished his career in naval intelligence, and I myself, having done a small tour in the United States Navy, I just want to take this opportunity. Everybody within the sound of my voice or watching this show, or who will watch the replay of this, who has served in Iraq and served in Afghanistan, I just want you all to know that I love you. I pray for all of you. I appreciate all you did for this country, the sacrifices made, especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice. God bless you all. And I, for one, will never forget September 11th, and I will never forget all that you have meant to us for the past 20 years, protecting our freedom here in the States. Having said that, I had a really nice conversation with a woman this week who's living here in the States, but has family, both Afghans and Americans, living still in Kabul, Afghanistan, trapped there. So she sent me a beautiful prayer she would like me to say at the start of the show. And this goes out to the tens of thousands of Americans and Afghan allies who were basically left hung out to dry behind enemy lines, to fight to somehow find a way to get out of Afghanistan after we pulled all our troops out. So they're in my prayers. If you'd like to add some positive love and light and positive vibe to this prayer, or if you want to receive, if you know someone who served in Iraq or Afghanistan, or someone that you know that is still there, and you'd like to offer and receive some of the good vibe off of this prayer, just reach out, touch your computer screen, and as I pray, just bow your head and concentrate on the words. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus, we know that you bless people with the gifts of life, family, and relationship. Afghan allies that stood with the Americans and the American military and their families are in danger. As America withdraws its troops from Afghanistan, the commitment we made to protect these allies and their families is being tested. We are grateful for the safe return of our active military members, grateful for the service of all veterans of our country, and honor the memories of those who gave their lives to protect America's freedom. Lord, strengthen our country to be a faithful friend to the Afghan families that are in need of protection. Lord Jesus, these allies placed their lives and the lives of their families in danger because they believed in the American mission. May we honor our commitment and aid their safe passage. May we seek peace as the mission of our families and communities. May we live as faithful friends in the world. Amen. All righty, guys. This very talented, passionate young lady that I'm about to bring on is a friend, and I'm excited to get together and chat with her today. She is the authority on Fairylore, Old Irish myth. I would assume elementals, supernatural, paranormal, critically acclaimed author, world renowned authority on all that stuff. Really cool person. Brothers and sisters, please welcome to the show the one and only Morgan Daimler. Morgan, are you with us?
I am. Hi. Glad to be here.
Let me tell everybody right now, anyhow, what a pro you are. You are back east and you have a hurricane bearing down on you, and you've decided to still stick it out and do the show, which I love you for that. So thank you very much. You're in my prayers that
Thank
you're
you.
going to be safe this weekend. So I know with the weather there, we may have uh, the communication lines. You know how internet is.
Yeah.
But my ministry family is very patient and understanding, and they know how it is, so it's all good. But you look very pretty today. Let me ask you the most important thing: how are you, your family, everyone close to you that you love? How's everyone doing with this pandemic, and how's the last year and a half been? And give me some good news.
We're hanging in. We're doing good so far. Everyone here is vaccinated so far. We have not had anyone come down with COVID, which is good. And just kind of try to keep moving forward. Kids go back to school in a few weeks, so they're excited about that. We'll see how that all goes around here, but and yeah, like you said, we have the hurricane coming in late tomorrow. While you were getting ready to do the prayer, I had every single device in my house going off because we just got the emergency alert notice.
Oh no! Oh my
So
gosh!
I'm
Oh
glad I was
wow!
muted because it's very festive.
Oh man!
If
Well,
I get any alarms while I'm on here, it's just that. It's okay.
don't worry about it. We understand. Um, what do I want to say to you? There's so much I want to say to you. I have a few questions I'll try to get to from your fans and followers that they sent me this week leading up to the show. And what else did I want to say to you? You know, the only every it's so hard. This is a primarily a all things paranormal podcast. It's so hard nowadays not to accidentally slip into politics or talk about the vaccine or lockdowns or masks or anything. One of my best interviews was with a gentleman who just that's all he talked about on the show primarily was his theories about the vaccine and stuff, and the show got taken down from my YouTube channel. So I guess that'll be the only
Yeah,
thing I don't ask yet
let's
about.
not
It'll be the
that.
vaccine. Yeah. So
Yep.
anyway, okay. I have to, this is a good question. This is from your friends and family. So let me mark off the first one. I love this question. I probably would not have asked it if someone didn't send it to me. But
I'm
I
excited.
believe, and I'm hoping know that there's no judgment here. We love everybody, regardless color, race, sex, whatever. We all want to know: are you a fairy?
That's not a question I anticipated.
I can understand.
Okay.
It, you know it. You know, there's the old adage: it takes one to know one. You're such an authority on all of that. I can understand why people would want to know. And I would figure this would be the place if you're a fairy, this would be the place where you could, like I said, you could come out with it, and we would all be supportive and love that, and it would be all good. And I dare YouTube to take that down.
Well, I'm going to try to preserve an air of mystery and say
Okay,
that I will plead the fifth on that question, if I can say that
okay,
without YouTube taking it down.
Okay, so here's the next one.
That was a good question. I usually can see where people are going with questions. I did not see that one coming.
Like I said, it was a good one, and I put that
That
one
was
to
a
the
good
top of the
one.
list because usually the fan mail gets down at the bottom, and sometimes I don't get to it. But when I saw that one, I throw it up at the top, so I can't take credit for it. But I do have, for you wanting to take the fifth. I have a theory about that, but I'm not going to comment at this time. So let me ask you this: everybody wants to know about cryptids and elementals and crossovers. And I talk about this to people all the time. And God bless them, not everybody, and me too. I'm very uh, ignorant about a lot of that stuff. Just I'm starting to use this term more and more. The longer I'm in this field, the more I learn, the less I actually know. And I still have things that I see and experience to this day that still surprise me, and there's still things that I've never experienced before. So, having said that, clarify to everyone the difference between cryptids, elementals, and if you believe that there are crossover species of those two entities.
It froze on me for just a second, so I didn't hear that last thing that you said. You're starting to use.
If you want to know if there are any crossover species between any of the elementals and any of the cryptids.
Sure. I think that's a great question. And it's such a fun subject to get into because, we have all of this Fairylore, which is all this generational, belief in all these places. And there's so much to it. And then you also have all of this cryptid material, which tends to be a little bit newer. I mean, some of it now you can go back 100 years or more, but, relatively newer. And some of it, there really is such clear connections to me when we look at certain specific ones. I don't want to say like all cryptids that are out there would fall into like the category of fairies, but there's definitely some that seem to check off a lot of the same boxes that we would look for. Like if we were trying to decide, like, would this be considered a fairy? Black-eyed children would be one. I'm not sure if that's technically a cryptid or urban myth at this point, but close enough. Mothman is another one that, very similar to things that we see with some types of fairies. Even chupacabra to a degree. And there's an ongoing kind of involved, like we would take up the entire rest of the show if I got into this, but discussion about where Sasquatch kind of fits in with all of this. I have a online friend, Joshua Cutchins, who does a lot with kind of comparing UFO alien stuff and Sasquatch stuff and fairy stuff. And I've talked with him a bit about it. It's really interesting. I definitely think there is crossover there. Not, like I said, with every single cryptid we find, but with enough of them that it definitely makes you think that, maybe some of the cryptids we find, particularly in North America, would have been considered fairies or would have been, lumped in with Fairylore in a different time period. Sort of, we weren't in the 20th century, 21st century. Does that make sense?
Totally. It's a very it's to me it seems so wide open. I'm going back even just 6 years ago. Around that time, I never really was into Bigfoot or the elementals. And then I've experienced personally so much of that stuff and talked to so many authorities on both subjects that it's just really fascinating. And I wonder why it took me so long to get on board with being as passionate about wanting to learn about that stuff as I am about all the other stuff. So pretty amazing stuff. Little people. That's another thing somebody threw at me this week. Oh, you're talking about the little people. And I said, listen, I'm not going to get into a big debate with you, but I believe of course, they're little and they're a form of people, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to have you answer this question. But they're not the little people. Somebody saw that you're into old Irish myth, so they thought fairies, well, that's the little people. I was sent a wonderful article this week, probably for this show. They saw that I was having you on. This person is of Native American heritage, indigenous peoples heritage, and sent me a wonderful article on the relationship between little people here in the indigenous little people here, like dwarves, and the crows, the Crow Nation. And if you start delving into that, you find so much literature from the Crow people talking about this little race of people that they referred to, or we might have slapped the term dwarves on them, some type of magical dwarfs, supposedly, fierce little people that they had dealings with for many, many centuries. Have you heard anything about that? And if so, what's your take on the indigenous elementals here?
Sure. I mean, obviously, when we're talking America, you're talking hundreds of different cultures, so I can't speak to all of them. I do know that, in Cherokee, we have the Yunitsundi, which means little people, and they're very similar to what you were just saying, but sort of also what we see in European Fairylore, small, look like humans, but in a smaller scale, I guess we would say. Yeah. And, they are in this world, but they can kind of seemingly move out of this world. They can give you good luck or bad luck. They're also connected to like illness and healing. So that sort of stuff. We also have the area more where I'm in, where I live currently. I can't say both of the local tribal groups. I'm not actually sure, but one of the tribal nations, they have they're called Makiawisug, and it's kind of the same thing. They're, about 3 feet tall. They don't like to be looked at directly. That'll make them angry, but they can be very helpful and very, very friendly if people are respectful to them. If you offend them, then they can, cause all kinds of mischief and
I think we lost you for a brief moment. Are you still with us?
Potential issues. So for me, I think I know it's every time I try to talk about this subject when technology is involved, I always with weird tech issues.
That was another thing. I didn't want to bring that up.
This all just shows that.
I was going to bring that up too at the beginning of the show, that we haven't. I didn't mention, the D word, but so many elementals are very malevolent and mischievous in their nature, and there's theories out there that some of them work with the demonic or non-human entities that are up to no good. So I thought, okay, we got the hurricane, we got the subject matter of tonight's show. It's going to be rough to get through the whole show without us just losing everything. So I'll keep my fingers crossed.
We'll do our best.
She was talking about this story that this lady told me, the crows. She said that they've many times, and I'm surprised that she was as open-lipped with me about this, because usually the indigenous are very close-lipped about talking about this stuff, especially when it deals with them directly, their tribe. But she said that they have found on many occasions remains, and then if you just leave the remains there, of course, they're gone. but even the remains that they thought to bring back and hold on to mysteriously just disappear. Do you think that's a case of them being retrieved, or them magically just disappearing because of the nature of the beast?
And I think, for my own opinion on it, I would say not so much magically disappearing, but definitely yes, because of the nature of the beast, so to speak. I think when you have these beings who, whether you want to call them extra dimensional, interdimensional, otherworldly, they're not from this world, this reality, this existence. And I think that because of that, when something happens and they die, the physical part of them that's here returns to wherever they're originally from. And we see that in folklore too. There's stories in Scotland of sailors, for example, fishermen who would pull up this particular kind of fairy. They're called fry, and the fairy can't survive once it's been hauled up out of the water and brought on land, and so they die. But once they die, the body kind of liquefies. It just ceases to be. And to me, that's kind of illustrating that once whatever spirit is in them, that's what they are, is gone, that physical form just also leaves this reality.
So mysterious. And I was just reading an article the other day. Anytime I have people out there that send me so much stuff, and I'm thinking of this article I recently read of a village in Ireland where there's a old cottage that still stands, and they've done renovation on it, and they put some new amenities in there, like running water, a bathroom, maybe added on to the cottage, but mainly it's still the same old cottage from quite some time back. And it's like on the outskirts of this village. Rumor had it going way back that they built this cottage, or the original owners built this cottage on a fairy mound. And everybody that's ever lived in that home has died a mysterious, unexplained type death, or just vanished. So now, even today, they have an argument going on in the village between half the village wants the cottage demolished, and half the village wants the cottage to be just left alone. It's for sale, and it's also for rent. Currently, to this day, nobody seems to want to live in there or rent it. So I'm thinking of two things. I'm thinking of, you've got two distinct types of fairy mounds. One, they're all over Ireland, but you've got two distinct different types. Some, the vegetation flourishes, and some of them, there is no vegetation, but you can clearly see the mound and the outskirts of the mound. Are we talking two different, in your opinion, are we talking two different types of fairies there, with the ones that the vegetation grows, unstoppable, and some where the vegetation doesn't grow at all? And what would happen? I'm of the opinion, just leave the cottage alone. They may be a little pissed off that you built on them, but it's almost like, what's going to happen if we demolish I don't know. What's going to happen if we demolish the cottage? Like, maybe they have chosen to inhabit it. I know I just threw like three questions on you in one, but
well, no, that last point is excellent point and very good instinct, because generally speaking, you should never build on fairy hills. It never ends well. But on the same hand, it's also a really bad idea to bring in sort of construction equipment and what you would need, even if it's just people going in there and trying by hand to take it down. They tend to be very possessive of stuff that they consider theirs. And if it is known to occur that they'll move into like the ruins of human places. So I would definitely be in the camp of just leave it alone. I think that tearing it down, you'd be more likely to have even more problems. And, particularly the people who go in and actually do the tearing down. Generally, if they don't want something standing, then they will do the tearing down themselves. And there are cases, this is one you can find references to it online, because it was in the newspapers. It was at least some of the newspapers in Ireland, where they had been laying, I shouldn't say laying, putting up power lines to run electrical lines. And some of the posts had been sort of right at the edge of where a ferry hill was, and the posts wouldn't stay upright. They just continuously kept falling over, and it was only the ones that were right next to the ferry hill. And finally they stopped trying to put them back up and relocated things and, did it a different way. But to me, that's sort of an example of like, if they don't want something there, they will knock it down themselves. Whereas if, you as the human being go in and try to decide, okay, I'm going to take this down because every human who lives here, dies. If they've decided that that's their place now, that is not going to work out well for you. And there's lots and lots of stories about people who've interfered with their places and kind of what goes wrong with that. And not just older stories. Like I just heard one the other day that happened fairly recently. So, I mean, these things still occur.
Absolutely. And you're right, to this day. I mean, I'm thinking of both, not only Ireland, which has the fairy mounds everywhere, and they won't build on them. I mean, they will not, to this day, build on these mounds. And I'm also thinking about the Minihuni in Hawaii, where I've personally spoken to some people who have told me, and I don't have any reason to disbelieve them, that they've actually seen this race of little Hawaiian people. But also areas of Hawaii that are rumored or believed that this species of elemental there, Hawaiian elemental, lives there. They won't build there. They won't have roads go through there. Nothing. And this is what jumps out at me about the elementals. That's different with ghosts. You can move into a haunted place, and once you finally realize it's infested with spirit, or there's one ghost there or a couple of ghosts, you almost can watch your P's and Q's, behave yourself, speak to them, and almost, I'm going to get hate mail for this, but almost cut a deal with them. Hey, listen, I'm not going to bring any people in here to run you off, send you to the light, or banish you to some place you don't want to go. You're welcome to stay, but I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to feel you. So just exist in your realm and do your thing, but, don't bother me. Yeah, I live here now too.
Cohabitation, yeah.
Absolutely, but you're right. It doesn't seem like that's very possible with elementals. And why do you, in your opinion, why do you think that is? Like this cottage in Ireland, why couldn't someone like me who believes in this stuff, and, I could be crazy, but why couldn't someone like me who believes, who has Irish heritage in his background, let's say in my golden years, I decide to leave and move back to Ireland, and I say, well, I'm going to go ahead and rent this cottage out or buy it. And I go in there and I try to do the same thing. I believe that you're here. I believe this place belongs to you. I've bought it. I've moved in here now, but you're all welcome to stay. Let's all just try to get along here and just be very respectful. Why do I still have a feeling with what's happened there that wouldn't go over very well?
Well, it'd definitely be a risk given the reputation that place has. I mean, I don't think it's completely impossible. I do think potentially, depending on whether the ones that are there have any interest in having humans around, that you can go in and kind of do what you just suggested and say, I want to be on good terms here. I'm gonna be a good tenant, basically, for you. I think where the difficulty lies is that when we look at a lot of the stories and accounts of places like that, places that have been built on a fairy hill or on a fairy path, or any place that was kind of their place first. I think what causes humans the most difficulty is just the level of activity is so nerve-wracking for humans. There's an account, for example, a fairy path is basically something humans can't see, but it's a path that the good folk travel going from one hill to another. And they're supposed to be all over the place in Ireland and other places that have fairy hills, so Scotland as well. And there have been accounts of people who accidentally built a house or part of a house on a fairy path because, of course, humans can't see them. And what ends up happening, particularly at night when the good folk are abroad and traveling from hill to hill, things will shake, things will rattle, windows shake, dishes fall out of cabinets and break, doors open and close. And I think even if you're kind of prepared for that, like you want to live there and that this is what's going to happen, I think the stress of just constantly having that kind of activity, even when it's not malicious, it's not, it's literally not intentional to cause any sort of issues, but you're constantly dealing with it. You're constantly dealing with the noises and the banging and things opening and closing and things falling and breaking. And I think that most humans would just have a difficult time with sort of that constant low level stress. Like, is someone breaking in, or are the good folk just traveling around again? Not to mention constantly having to replace and fix things because of stuff like that. So I think sometimes that's part of the problem. With that particular house, it sounds more like whatever's there just does not want humans around. And, in those cases, I don't think anything, can be done that's going to convince them to change their minds.
Well, I'm also you brought up Scotland earlier. I've got some Scotch, Irish, and English background in my heritage, and I still to this day fantasize about maybe one day retiring back there.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't like the cold, so I don't know how that's going to go. But I'm thinking of a castle. If anybody's watching, or perhaps you may know, Morgan, I do know of all of the haunted castles in. I don't know if it was Scotland or Ireland, but I'm thinking of a castle where the owner who built it, he was also very much into black magic and the black arts, and he, whatever religious belief system he had in place, he perverted it a little bit, and he was doing incantations and spells and things of that nature. He sought out an area that was believed to be right on some ley lines and a fairy mound. And that's why he built his castle on that location, because he planned on using the magical properties of that chunk of land for his own perverted, selfish needs and in performing his black magic stuff. Well, it dramatically backfired on him. Many deaths in the family, lost some big battles with some other clans. I believe to this day, the castle, you can take tours of it, but no one's been able to live in it. So it almost seems like even this gentleman couldn't use the fairies to assist him in his attempt to be like a master of the black arts.
Yep. I'm not sure exactly which place you're talking about. There are a couple that I'm aware of that are in England that were associated with like the Hellfire Club and things like that, which definitely got up to some pretty odd occult shenanigans.
Yeah.
So it could be one of those. Obviously I'm not familiar with absolutely everything everywhere. And including, by the way, on the topic of the good folk, like I know what I know, but there's a lot of other super knowledgeable people out there that would know more than I would about different aspects of the topics we're discussing. But yeah, I definitely think that anytime someone thinks that they're going to go in and control these beings or make deals with them to kind of have like power and influence in the human world, that's never going to really go well. And yeah, definitely building on their places or, interfering with their places, thinking that then you're going to have some sort of control over them is going to be a bad idea from the start.
Yeah.
So yeah, whichever example we are talking about, I think the person from the beginning probably was not gonna go anywhere that ended well based on what they were doing.
I don't know. It wouldn't matter to me. I have plenty of friends who are pagans and Wiccans and witches. The ones that tend to, take the weird path and do things they shouldn't be doing with their religious belief system usually don't really want to associate with me anyway. That's how I can kind of tell when I make friends with somebody that has that belief system. I know they're of good heart and they're of love and light. I've always known that about you, regardless of whatever your religious belief system or spiritual belief system you have in place for you. But what about witches and the elementals, i.e., fairies, the leprechauns, a number of others that I just can't think of what they are at this moment? Is there a little bit of a conflict there with that, or are they able to work hand in hand? Do witches try and manipulate those elementals, or do they have their own demonic, malevolent demons that they reach out to do their thing?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that do a lot of ill-advised things all over the place. When we're talking witches, kind of like when we're talking about fairies, it's such a broad category. You're going to have some people who are going to be very, oriented on helping and healing and that sort of thing. And, you're always going to have humans being humans and being manipulative and trying to do things through ambition and a desire for power that, is probably not going to end well, particularly with these sorts of beings, just because, looking at the folklore, looking at the history with things, they generally don't respond particularly well to that sort of thing. There's a few exceptions if we dig into the folklore, and they're usually the more like overtly malicious kinds of beings, like red caps, which are sort of a Northern English kind of being, and they sort of just exist to be malicious, basically. And there is a story of a man who was into magical work. I don't know what we would actually call him in modern terms, but that he had kind of made a deal with this red cap, this type of malicious spirit being, and it did end up not ending well for him in the end. But he did make that connection, make that deal. But I think that, you're talking about humans, you're always going to have ones that abuse whatever power they can get. And you're talking about something like, elementals, like you were referencing, or fairies, the good folk, broadly, or, any of these types of beings, any type of spirit being, really. You're going to have some that are going to be overtly malicious in that category as well. But my own experience from what I've seen, and in general what's kind of out there, I don't think that's something that the majority of people really do. I think you're more likely to run across witches who are trying to connect with, or however you want to term it, sort of that post-Victorian twee kind of idea of a fair, like garden fairies. Yeah. Little things that look like tiny children with wings, and going more for that kind of end of the spectrum, if you will. But yeah, I mean, we do have some accounts, at least in folklore, of the more dangerous end of things, I guess we would say.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've seen spirit when I was very young, and now I look back and I wonder if some of what I thought was, as a young child, some of what I thought was just spirit. Now, looking back, wondering if at times I wasn't seeing my fair share of some type of elemental activity also. So there's a theory now. It's been around for as long as I can remember, that ghosts, if there's a lot of ghosts haunting a location, the longer you allow them to remain, more times than not, these spirits tend to, over time, become a little malevolent. Not always, but a lot of the time. Then people will tell you, well, the longer also that these spirits hang around these locations, they attract the demonic and malevolent non-human entities. And when the demonic arrives, it's a whole different game. They seem to almost capture these human spirits and hold them their prisoner. Then the theory is, okay, well, stage 3 is now it attracts the elementals, which I'm not on board with that, but I'll tell you what I am on board with, and I'm wondering if what your feelings are on this. Could what we be experiencing be elementals are everywhere? I don't know if there's a homeland. Guys in Ireland will tell you, no, we are the gateway to Middle Earth. This is their homeland, but they're all over the world. So I don't know how to interpret that. If they left the home world and traveled around the world, but I am of the opinion now that elementals are already at the location, and that allows the hauntings to occur. That many times these people that pass away at locations that are already infested with elemental and elemental activity, that encourages the hauntings. Then much later, maybe the demonic show up, maybe they don't. What are your opinions about that theory? And let's say you like that theory, or let's say that theory is what's happening. Elementals first, hauntings, the demonic. If that happens, are the elementals and demonics, or is there a conflict, a battle there? Or if that is what's happening, what's going on there?
Sure. That's a lot to go over.
I know. I'm sorry to just hit you over the head with about 9 questions in one.
That's okay. I mean, I think, not that I can speak for anyone in Ireland really, or Irish people in general, but most of the friends I have in Ireland, I don't think they feel like Ireland is the source or the center for these beings. It definitely has a lot of history and folklore to it. But you certainly see, the idea of these sorts of beings in Scotland and Wales and other places as well. Just to quickly touch on that. But, for my own opinion, for the rest of it, I think that, when we're talking about are these beings, whether you call them elementals or call them fairies or what have you, kind of already there. I think the majority of the time they probably are already there. I think a lot of times it's not an issue until something kind of throws the balance off. If they aren't being malicious immediately, then sort of something's going to have to happen to cause that. And it's sort of like, and I don't like comparing these sorts of spirits to wild animals, but it's sort of like, if you have wild animals in your yard and everything's fine and they're not getting into your stuff, you're good, they're there, you're there, it's fine. But if something happens that sort of shifts the balance that's going on around you, suddenly they don't have food, so now they're getting into your garbage, that kind of thing. You see what I mean? Like something has to change to cause the interactions to change. I think with human ghosts, I don't know if it's that they having those sort of otherworldly spirits there makes human hauntings easier. I do definitely see a lot of cases where both are happening at the same time, where you have activity that's clearly sort of otherworldly in nature, but you also have stuff that's clearly like human hauntings going on. And, I think that certainly complicates the picture in a lot of ways. And I don't pretend to totally understand the connection there or how that interacts. My own personal opinion, I don't think that otherworldly beings, that fairies particularly get along well with demonic spirits. But again, it's such a broad category. I can't say for certain that if he has something like a red cap, which we've established as malicious, and it was in a situation where there was also demonic activity going on, that it wouldn't be delighted, to mix it up with that. But usually, and I have very, very, very limited experience with demonic stuff because that's just not my thing. But usually when I have seen that or heard of counts of it, that seems to push everything else out, and that's what's going on there. It doesn't leave room for other things. Whereas, the good folk, when they're around, the fairies, when they're around, it's more of like an ecosystem. They'll be there, and other things can also be there too. I've never, in my experience, again, and from what I've studied, I've never seen them sort of push everything else out so that it's just them, unless you're talking about something like a fairy hill, which is explicitly kind of their area, if that makes sense.
Totally. I just have had, especially recently, I've had teams come to me and say they've encountered stuff on particular ghost hunts, and that were so unlike your typical haunt and what you would normally experience, that I'm thinking many times these paranormal investigators are experiencing elemental activity and not being able to recognize it and not knowing how to deal with it. And I just don't know if there's any particular way training out there that a Ghostbuster can go and attain and now know how to distinguish the difference between that's a ghost, that's a demon, oh, that's an elemental, and either just say, okay, I'm dealing with an elemental, it's time for me to leave now because you can't really deal with them, or know a way to deal with them. It's like my situation here at my house. We've done research on the property and the home. No reason that jumps out at us as to why there's spirit here. We've assumed that it's a lot of ancestral spirits in visitation, a fair amount of spirits that have followed us home from haunted locations, and then they just decided to hang around for a while. But I was running into, and I don't know if we've had this discussion before, but I was running into a lot of bad luck here at the house. Mm-hmm. At first, I thought it was this voodoo doll that somebody sent me with no name attached to it from New Orleans. And once I bound it, things got a little better. But still having a lot of issues with my water lines in the back home, a lot of issues in the front yard. And to this day, I still have friends in my field, the deliverance ministry field, who are still so mad at me for doing this, and still that I talk about it. But hey, it is what it is. I finally said, you know what? I'm going to go on a whim here and assume that there might be some elementals attached to this property. I'm going to go out there and talk to them. So I went out back where I was having all the water supply was coming in, and I was saying, hey, listen, this water supply is as much yours as it is mine, and we needed to survive here on this piece of land. Quit messing with it, or whatever is messing with it. Could you please protect the water supply?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I dug a hole and I put some special things in the hole, like tobacco and candy and money, and I don't know what else I put in there, and then some holy water and stuff. Said some prayers. Stopped going back there and messing around with that area at all. Well, mainly because something I couldn't see through me in the deep end of my pool, and my pool was drained at the time. So that's really why I don't go back there. But I didn't want to mess with the elementals.
That's a good reason. That's a very good reason.
But I had this huge tree. I'm telling you, this tree was one of the biggest trees in our neighborhood, smack dab in the middle of my front yard. And it looks like it's on like a little bit of a fairy mound. It's very odd. Now, the tree finally died. I don't know why. I watered the hell out of it. But it started to lean towards my home. And I knew if it landed on my home, it would take out my master bedroom. If it fell the other way, it would take out probably my neighbor's kitchen. Mm-hmm. If it fell one way, it would take out my car. So I started parking the car in the street. And if it fell straight back, I was afraid it was going to hit a kid, because we have kids in the neighborhood and they're always out there in my yard playing. I don't know why they pick my yard to play in, but they're out there. I don't mess with them. But I went out there and did the same thing. I had a talk with the elementals. I did a bunch of saging and said some prayers, and I talked to them again, dug a hole, put a bunch of offerings in the hole, said, listen, do me a favor. This tree's coming down. I don't know why you guys are decided to get rid of it. But, and hear me thinking, they never liked this tree. Now that they killed it, they want it out of here. Okay, fine, I'll get it out of here, because you very seldom see a tree in the middle of a fairy mound. So now I asked them, don't let it fall on my house, please. Don't let it fall on my neighbor's house. I need my car. Don't let it hit a kid. Help me here. This is your home too, guys. Help me here. I swear to you, I woke up the next day. Now the tree was going to fall on my house. Mm-hmm. It completely fell the opposite way, missing my neighbor's house, missing my car, landing perfectly in my front yard, stopping just short of the sidewalk so it wouldn't impede children walking back and forth or hurt anybody. And I know people are out there going, Reb, you just had a windstorm and it blew the tree the other way. Fine. All I know was I thanked them, and I haven't had any issues anymore. And occasionally when I come home from being away and I go to open my front door and something I can't see bites my right hand, I know it's not one of them.
Yeah.
So I also tell them all the time, hey, listen, I don't know how you guys feel about the bad players, the bad guys, but you have my permission to battle them too, and fight with them and help me out here with that battle. So, having said this crazy story to you, am I totally losing my mind?
I totally believe your story, and I'll tell you why. Because I had something not identical, but somewhat similar with the tree part happen, where we were getting a storm. And it might actually have been a tropical storm or a hurricane. I can't remember now, but we had a pretty intense storm going on, and I had a tree in my backyard. And with the way the wind was blowing, I'm like, this is going to fall on my house, and that's not okay. So sort of the same thing. I was just asking, like, just please don't let it fall on the house. And the wind was blowing directly, so it was pushing it where that's what was going to happen. But I'm like, please just, it's your yard too. We get along pretty well here. Like, just don't have it fall on the house, because I can't keep living here if it falls on the house. And it fell against the wind. So it literally went down in the opposite direction that the wind was blowing. And of course, rational explanations, you can argue that there was a random gust or burst that went, in that direction, even though everything else was coming the other way. And that's, if you want to be skeptical, you can say that. But to me, that was them responding and being like, okay, we'll have it fall back into the backyard instead of towards the house in the backyard, which would have been a completely different end result. So I totally, I believe your story.
Well, here, this is between you and me. You and I both know what really happened.
Yeah.
We know they're here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
and you brought up a really good point at the beginning. Before I forget, because I wanted to respond to it. I do think that a lot of paranormal investigators are running across things that are fairies and mistaking them for other things because they're just not familiar. You know, particularly here in the US, we just don't, it's not a big thing that people think of. You know, when you go in and there's activity going on, you sort of immediately assume it's either going to be a human ghost or it's going to be a negative or a demonic sort of entity. And, you know, people never really look for option number 3, so to speak. And I've been watching episodes of like popular ghost hunting TV shows because everyone needs a hobby. And, you know, but there's been a couple where I'm like shaking my fist at the TV going, that's not what it is. It's totally this other thing. And how you interact and deal with them, like you said, it's so totally different because you can't banish them, you can't help them, you know, move on. You can't do any of the stuff that people would normally try to do for what they might think is there. You kind of have to have a totally different strategy. So yeah, I wanted to circle back to that before we moved on to something else.
Well, listen, you are the kind of person, you know, I love you. I respect you. I couldn't wait to chat with you again. You're the kind of person I could do a series with. And I'm thinking about probably reaching out to you and maybe even around the Halloween time or shortly after do a series with you because I marked off, look, I have a full cheat sheet here of questions and I got to 3 of them. So listen, we're about to run out of time. I want to make sure people know you have, oh, did I not write it down here? Do me a bit. Oh, yeah, I did. www.patreon.com/Morgan Daimler. You also have a wonderful Facebook page that I know that you call yourself, you're part of that, I believe, Fae Propaganda Department. You also have another Facebook page, Morgan Daimler Author.
That's my author page, yeah.
Before we get cut off here, tell people who are very interested in you that aren't already a big fan of yours, where you would, if they want to get more into you and maybe get one of your books, and you've written so many wonderful ones, recommend where they should go, recommend what book you want them to get their first elemental taste from Morgan Daimler.
Sure. I mean, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, there's plenty of online sources you can get my books. The one I primarily would recommend, especially in this context, is one I wrote called Fairies, A Guide to the Celtic Fair Folk. And that's actually coming out in audiobook in October, but it's out in print and ebook now. So that would be a good option, I think, for people interested in this subject. I also do teach some online classes for the Irish Pagan School. I've done some stuff about fairies on there, and then they have some great other teachers there that also teach about this subject. So that's another great resource if you'd rather listen to my voice droning on and on about the subject as opposed to reading. Sort of put that multimedia option out there.
Well, listen, another thing I love about you is you rock the tats. We both have that in common. We rock the tats.
Gotta have a little variety, yeah.
Thank you so much for spending an hour out of your busy, scary Friday evening with a hurricane coming, and I'm sure the elementals there with you are just as panicky as you are.
It's always interesting around here.
God bless you. You're on the prayer list. I'll be in touch. We got to do this again, and have a wonderful, wonderful remainder to your evening, okay?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I really appreciate it. You. I'll talk to you soon. Good night. Brothers and sisters, Morgan Daimler. Okay. www.ghost-b-gone.biz, my website. Anything you want to know about me is there. While you're there, don't forget, I got a new haunted autobiography out, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry. Part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my book goes to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, Nevada, and the ASPCA. So do your good deed for the day and get a copy of my book. I also am teaching an online course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, that you can sign up for at the website, and that's through the Worldwide Society of Exorcists. Thank you also very much for tuning in. I don't have a show without all of you, so God bless you all. Continue to pray for everyone in Afghanistan that wants to get out of there, that is having a hard time getting out of there. Keep them in your prayers. I want to let you guys know I will be back next week. Oh, you guys are going to love this dude. Friday, August 27th. Get your passports ready. We're going back to Haunt Australia again. Australia. The one and only Damien John Knott. This guy has got some stories to tell about some alien encounters and stuff he's caught on film. He's also a filmmaker there in Australia. He's going to blow you away. He's also, for all you single women out there, very handsome gentleman. You guys are going to love him. So, thank you to my beautiful, passionate producer, Adrienne Hart. I also couldn't do the show without her. Desert Heart Paranormal. She's also a bigwig at the Paranormal United Network. Having said that, the Paranormal United Network, they simulcast my show on their Facebook Live page. Thank you for that. If you like my show, go there, check out their lineup. A lot of shows there better than mine. The Paranormal United Network. What else do I want to tell you guys other than just stay blessed, everybody. You're all in my prayers. Stop the violence. Stop the violence. Stop the violence. Stop anger. If you stop the anger first, the violence, you don't have to worry about it. Anger is just a punishment we put on ourselves for somebody else's mistake. Have a blessed week, guys. We'll see you all next Friday. Thank you for all of the cards you've sent congratulating me on getting engaged and my upcoming wedding. But I'm not that guy. As soon as the Dog the Bounty Hunter announced he got engaged and was getting married, people have been sending me cards. I'm not Dog the Bounty Hunter. I'm not Jack Black. I know I look like both of them, but I'm not those guys. On that note, God bless you, Dog. Good luck on your new wedding. Good night, Jack. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. God bless you all. Peace.